For the Mida agreements, these are interlocal agreements between Wasatch County and Mida. We've seen this a couple different times. We've had the, we'll wait till the end and then I'll reserve some time for public comment.
This is not a public comment.
Could I just ask a quick question, Greg? It doesn't have anything to do with...
Sure, please come forward and state your name for the record, please.
Yeah. My name is Kit Kozakowski, and I just have a very quick question, and it has to do with your proclamation regarding the election results, which I got a copy of from the clerk's office. And I just have a quick question because I see the proclamation with regard to the open space bond, but I don't see it with regard to Proposition 10. And I just wondered what was going on there, if I was missing something.
And then the results of the voting on 10 is on that.
The results of the voting is here, but there does not seem to be an actual proclamation with regard to it as you have with regard to the open space bond.
You want to refer that to the clerk's office?
Yeah, we'll have to refer to the clerk and county attorney's office. I know we voted on the results and they're published. I'm not sure about the proclamations. I'll have to look into it.
Okay, I would have...
Anybody got anything?
They were part of our packet.
No. So, okay.
Okay.
Sorry. Okay, we'll get on with our agenda item. We want to start out with review of the first reading on this. Mr. Sweat, you want to? Is there any specific items that we want to address that were in our first reading that have changed to second reading? We want to highlight, or who's planning on doing that?
He stood up too fast.
And you were glad to let him?
Yeah.
Well, obviously we'll have discussion, so anyone who feels like they have a comment or a change from the council or the staff, please speak up.
So the resolution on the agenda is just the resolution regarding the map, approving the map, is that correct?
No, the resolution is the resolution that does two things. One is it approves the interlocal agreements. There was an interlocal agreement entered into by the county council in 2012
Between us and Mida.
between Wasatch County and Mida. And this resolution would bring in two new interlocal agreements and replace the 2012 interlocal agreement. It would also add some property into the Mida area. Now, to add property into the Mida area, two things have to happen. One is the county council has to consent that it be allowed into Mida, and then the landowner, the owner of the property, also has to consent that it goes into Mida. So this here would be adding some area that may or may not at this time have a landowner who wants to be part of the Mida area, but it would allow them to come in later if they so desire.
So basically we're saying this is potential boundary, just like when Heber City expanded their boundaries up into North Village and whatnot. That doesn't mean those properties come in, it's just they're able to now.
Well, they're able to, and once the county has given that authorization for them to come in, you can't take it back. You've consented for that to be in the Mida boundary. I can put a map up on the board to show you that if you would like, or you tell me what you want to see.
Got it.
So what the council would be doing tonight, an interlocal agreement has to be approved by the county council. It is an agreement that is signed by the county manager, but because of the nature of the agreement and requirements of the state code, it has to be approved by the county council.
And the cross-hatched area is the potential area, correct?
That is the
additional
area that
potential
we
area.
added into the Mida area by the council.
The green area without the hatch is currently the Mida project area.
And then the yellow.
green and the yellow, yeah. That
Green
is
or yellow,
here, this is green.
They don't so much
And the cross hatches.
this one, a little bit.
is the area that is proposed to be added into Mida. And so the resolution today that the council is looking at would both allow that to be added in as property owners wanted to bring it in, and would approve the replacement of the 2012 interlocal agreement with two interlocal agreements, one that covers what's on the west side of the road up there, and one that covers what's on the east side of the road.
With the new area on the west.
On the west would, yeah, the new area would be in the west side.
Is there any of our red line from our first reading that were not acceptable to Mida?
There was a lot of things that we had asked, and most of them was accepted.
I guess that would be my question. Is there anything that wasn't, and what were they?
Let me think about that for a minute.
Well, we clarified a couple of things.
So it might have just been a matter of clarification.
It was particularly pertaining to the annexation area and the consents, and there were a couple of issues that where it had said sole discretion of Mida, we changed it to sole discretion of the county, and what we agreed is that the committee, and I never get the committee name correct. Conference subcommittee would go to that committee, and that's what we basically thought as we met with Paul on
That's
this.
how it's spelled out in the current agreement.
And that's how it's spelled out in the current
So that
agreement.
clarification has been made.
So what we were looking for was that in several instances in here, Mida is basically contracting with the county or hiring the county to do some of the services or some of the permitting and approval process that would normally, well, it could be handled by whoever they wanted to hire. They could hire a private party, they could hire the county. I think typically they look at the jurisdiction closest by. But there were some reasons that they say if you're not able to do it, then we are able to go get another party. And we wanted to be involved in that if for some reason we thought there needed to be another party. And so we worked through that subcommittee thing. There's also some clarification on exactly what it meant to be in or not in, and who owned what property and how it would be brought into the future. And I think we were in agreement on that. It just wasn't as clear as we would have liked, and after working with Paul today from Mida, I think we've got that clarification, is my take on it.
Okay. Okay, may I ask you a question, Scott?
Yes.
That crosshatched area, we got an email from Paul, or it was on an email, I think, saying that was limited to 200 ERUs.
That is my understanding.
That's
Okay.
part of the agreement. It's in the agreement.
And I think it's in the
I couldn't see
agreement.
it in the agreement. But what happens, now that's for that whole crosshatched area. What happens if another property owner comes in that's in that area? Are they limited to that same limit?
Says in the email, this is the one we got from Paul the other day. Since our meeting, I found that the added property to the south is about 80% owned or currently under contract by Excel. And we had a discussion on that
Right.
200.
That's what we did.
They agreed that the 200 ERU limit should apply to all of the new property, whether they own it or not. So apparently it's, all of that crosshatch is limited to the 200 ERUs, if I read that correct, right?
That was the intent, and maybe Paul can help point to where that is in the
Yeah,
contract.
If you look at paragraph 8, so in your packet, the first one is
Paul,
the...
would you come up
Sure,
just for
sure,
the
sorry.
recording? Thank you.
Absolutely. So you have two copies of the agreement, the west side agreement and the east side. They are identical except for the land use part, so they both have the same language, but it's under the land use approvals 8, and then go to B, and then 3I, 8B, 3I. So it's page 8 of the first agreement, and you'll see under E, that south, that hatched area, well, it's hard to read, but it says southwest region. So if you look at E, southwest region as such property is identified with crosshatch in the green shaded area of Exhibit A, which is up on the screen. Here too, maximum residential density of 200 ERUs. Doesn't matter who owns it, whether it's Xtel or somebody else, it's the max.
How's that going to be allocated then?
Well, Mida will have to allocate it with assistance. You got to have a board member on Mida, and we'll have to allocate it. Extel has indicated to me they own about 20% of that now, or?
80%.
Excuse me, 80%.
80% under contract.
Is either owned or under contract right now. So,
And the way I read it is, this is an agreement with Mida and Wasatch County, that Mida will not authorize more density in there than the 200 units for the whole cross section.
That makes sense, because if one owner took them all, then another owner wouldn't even have an opportunity. We want to make sure that doesn't create a problem for us, at least from my perspective.
What's the total acreage on that? Like 1,000?
I think about 1,000.
Not 1,000, just do it on a percentage basis. If you have, over 200 acres, everybody gets 1 per acre.
But what this means is that Mida has that, the agreement is that Mida has the discretion on that, not necessarily the
Can
county,
you line that
correct?
out?
On the green side.
On the
that's
hatched area.
correct.
So can a third party come in and request a modification to this agreement?
Yes, but they would have to come back to you. You'd have to agree, then go back to
And the
mine.
Mida board as well.
It would be, they wouldn't have any rights under this agreement. It would have, the agreement between Wasatch County and Mida would have to be changed.
Okay. Anything else for Scott?
It's over 1,000 acres. There's 7 sections there I can count.
Yeah, is that 640? What's a section? Is a section 640?
So it's over 1,300 acres, closer to 50.
So I think as the council is aware, on the west side, Mida will be doing the approvals for the village area. On the east side will still be the county basically doing the approvals. Very similar to the initial 2012 agreement, other than Mida will.
This agreement, Mida can't approve more than 200
What's
on
that?
that additional 1,500 acres.
Yeah, you were talking about something else.
Yes, that's okay.
Okay, anything else for Mr. Sweat?
So this is probably for Paul and Scott to have, or whoever wants to answer. But what if we just look at the west side agreement language, which is very similar to the east side? On 5, J, and K. So that's on page 4 and 5 for the west side agreement. So that's where we're talking about providing municipal services. And then K, J talks about that, but then K talks about the conference subcommittee.
Yes.
You with me?
Question.
Okay. So then the question is it the conference subcommittee would determine who the third party is, or would there be an opportunity, let's say that client is not happy with the level of service or the speed of service or whatever it is for municipal services, does this allow for the conference subcommittee to resolve the matter between the county and Mida without having to go to a third party?
This does not provide for that specifically. Up in the top, you can see if the county isn't timely providing the services, then Mida can start the process. There could be language added in that says they'll go through some sort of process with the county. My hunch would be is that they would probably try to work with the county initially, but this is if everything else has failed and we're not there.
Yeah, I read it the same way you do.
I don't see anything here that puts a process into place for us to mediate with Mida to say, yeah, here's why we want to do this, or here's how we can speed it up.
As part of that, Mighty might say, well, then you gotta do this, and we'll say, okay, well, we can, or whatever, right?
Well, and again, that is not in the agreement. I assume there's going to be some of that back and forth with many things in here, but we didn't spell it out that from day one, if there's a problem, here's how it would happen.
I think it's important and we all know this, that this is a partnership agreement, and it will be in neither party's best interest to not make the services work with us. That's not good for them and certainly not good for us.
A similar question would be on 7D. It's almost identical as far as the third party would be consulted after the conference subcommittee. I'm curious, Paul, how do you interpret this? Do you interpret the way that Scott and I do, is that
So one thing that could be put in, I'm
Yes.
sorry, go ahead.
Yes.
One thing that could be put in is that they could give us notice and we have 60 days to cure it in consultation with them. And after the 60 days, then this starts. I don't know if that would be hard to put in, and we could probably,
I thought it was already in there, Scott. They gave it, if we weren't meeting their standard, they gave us 60 days or something.
that's in a different area, but in these two areas, it doesn't
Well,
state that.
we can give 60 days to say we're not gonna do it any longer, if we
Yeah.
can. It maybe ought to be in here. Would that be a hard sell call, or
For us to give you notice if you're,
if you're gonna,
No, the notice is already in here. The thing is there a process for us to
A
make
meet and
corrections?
confer process prior to going to the conference subcommittee.
yes, I'm looking for the language. Hang on a second.
So if we move forward, I want to make sure I understand. You already, while he's looking for that, this is an agreement that we approve and authorize the county executive to sign. Is that correct? Mr. Davis, do you see anything here? Do you have anything you'd like to bring up? Or are you okay with this has been proposed? I know we've gone through this blanket multiple times back and forth. Is there anything left that you think we need to address before you're authorized to sign?
I think we've reached the point that we've agreed to the language that's been presented, that we have here. You know, if we need to tweak it a little bit, I'm okay with that too. But I'm okay with it.
But overall, you think we've hashed most of the hash?
I do.
For lack of a better term.
If there's not any concerns amongst anybody else, I don't see why we would not want to put that 60-day notice to work it out. It
Is
will
that
solve some
something you
immediate.
think solve your concern, or?
I think so. I just would, I would not.
I was looking for, we have a 30-day notice. We could
Right.
say, you want it to be 60?
No, what I'm saying is, even if it's within the 30 days, it just doesn't allow for, maybe it's not necessary.
Well, I think it may have been there in one iteration, and as we changed some things, it disappeared. But I don't think, my hunch is, like I say, I don't think we would just get something that says, hey, we're going to kick you out tomorrow. But it would not hurt from the county's perspective to have that in there. But if there was anything, and maybe we could put a line in the conference subcommittee that says anytime something comes to them, they can give a 60-day cure period before they may take any further action.
Could you just put it in section 2, since both those areas already refer to section 22? Would that make sense or not? I'm just thinking out loud.
I don't know. I don't know if Paul really understood what it is that I was making a point about.
I'm not, candidly, I'm not clear.
Okay, so if you look at 5J, the West Side Agreement, which is on page 5. Okay, and of course, there's a lot of language there. Maybe it's just understood in your mind and maybe in somebody else's mind too, that within that 30 days, the county has an opportunity to cure the ills before we go to conference subcommittee. Or maybe it's best that it goes to conference subcommittee and we try to resolve it there before we go to a third
I
party.
have no problem changing it from 30 to 60 days with a right to cure.
Okay.
That would be fine with me.
and then the other
In
place,
each of
there
those
wasn't
different
a
places,
time
yes.
frame on the other one you referred to, Dan. Where was the other one
The
again?
other one is in 7D. And there's multiple places where we refer to the conference subcommittee, but 7D,
There's no time period in there.
they just want a 30 or 60-day opportunity to cure before we move. And if that means in using the conference subcommittee, I'm okay with that. They just don't want it to automatically revert to a third party and we lose our opportunity to provide the service.
Well, those are two different issues. So one is we say, look, you're not measuring up. We're giving you notice. You have a right to cure. If it
Right.
doesn't work, then we got to go find somebody
Okay.
else.
So the right
We
to
don't
cure-
get to sign off on, what we agreed to is we'll go to the conference subcommittee and see if we, before we hire that third party, that we would go there and talk, our chairs and your chair and vice chair and your representative, that 5 persons will talk first as to which third party we're going to hire. But as far as before we get to who we're gonna hire, what you're suggesting is have an opportunity, we tell you in writing what it is you're not doing that
Before
for.
you even start talking about who the third party is.
Correct.
Right.
So I'm agreeing.
So right to cure language is what I'm looking for.
Go from 30 days to 60 days with the right to remedy the problem that we'd like to address. That would be fine to do that in J. And then do the same thing you're saying in the section that deals with inspections. This is municipal services, the next section is inspections.
So anywhere where we have that type, before we refer to the conference subcommittee, just give us a right to cure language. And if we can't do it, we go to the conference subcommittee.
Okay.
Can we do that in those areas? Do I need to point them all out?
I think we can find them, but,
For the purposes of the motion, it might not hurt to at least hit the sections, whether it's municipal services, inspections. I don't think you need to go into.
Okay.
Those are the only two sections where
That's what
Mida
you're
can say,
thinking.
look,
Okay.
we need to get somebody else. Those are the.
There's another
one more.
So on 8B, I guess that's I, 8BI, and it'll be over on page 8, this is still west side. We're talking about DRC, we're talking about if no acceptable individual is recommended by the county, then Mida can appoint someone of its choosing.
You saying that needs to be referred to the committee there? Or?
Well, same type of situation. I mean, I think Paul's thinking about it while I pointed it out. But just when we have an opportunity, like, we want to recommend our individual to be on the committee, we want you to accept them, of course. If you don't like them, we want the opportunity to know why and then to try to repair it.
It already has that only 30 days. The county shall recommend another individual within 30 days. If no acceptable individual is recommended by the county within that period, Mida can appoint someone else.
It's the language acceptable individual that concerns me, because based on what standard? Who makes the, based on what standard is it an acceptable individual? Is it just somebody Mida wants?
Well, no, it's like a normal kind of an advice and consent. You're recommending somebody, but it's Mida's board. It's
Okay.
Mida's equivalent of a planning commission.
Right.
So you recommend them to us, and we appoint them. And, you know, we've had this, we've appointed everybody you recommended in the past.
Yeah. What is it? So like if we appoint and you don't like that person, we got 30 days, we appoint another one, you don't like them within 30 days, you get to pick the
And
next
they're going
one.
to pick somebody else if they're not.
I didn't want to lose the opportunity to have a choice, but.
It is not, you know, we do the same thing up north. We've never not appointed somebody that somebody sent us. So we have 2 counties and 4 cities. We have a DRC, it's Mida's board, but we ask them for recommendations and our board appoints. And in our 10-year history, we've never not appointed somebody they recommended. But we have that ability to do that. Same thing here is all we're saying, but it's not a, in the end, it is Mida's committee. But we want you to tell us who you want on there. And we had great turnout from the people you sent us before. I mean, it was a very active committee. We showed up and we did the work, so it worked out well. That's how we adopted all our standards and guidelines. It's from your DRC recommending you about the board.
Okay. I don't think there is. I think that's all for the west side at least that I can recall.
So if we go to take action on 1817, is it for both?
it is.
For east and west? West and east, excuse me.
It's these
Yes.
2 agreements.
Okay.
It's both west and east.
And this change we're talking about is the same paragraph number in both. We kept the numbering the same.
So is that, do we have anything on the other side we want to address that's in addition to what we've already
You
addressed?
see, I think the things that we've addressed on the west side
Will apply to the
also
east.
apply to the east side.
I think the questions for our county attorney's office and the county manager, that they feel comfortable with the way that it's been revised, and any issues that we need to be concerned about.
The problem with any agreement is there's always more you could put in it, more you can clarify. What Councilman Good brings up is, if we don't like this person now, they can appoint 30 days, and we could have some sort of other process. And the question is, where do you end that process? And once things turn bad, it's bad, and as long as you're working together, you're probably going to go through that process 2 or 3 times. And it's hard to say how far you want to define that out. But it is a concern, and I agree that that's an issue to talk about and decide where the council wants to go with it.
On 5D, Paul, on the west side, let's go to the west side. And I know that we have mirrored language in 5E for the county's perspective. Can you just walk me through it real quick so I can make sure I'm understanding it? What does it mean when they say if Mida elects? What is that referring to?
So our only obligation under this agreement is to pay you, and you do all the municipal services, between you and your service districts. That's the default. If it's not working out, and we give you the notice, which we're now, we talked about it from 30 days to 60 days with the right to cure, but if we say, hey, there's something wrong, then now Mida can step in and take over that municipal service. The second one is in paragraph, the last sentence of J. Mida reserves the right without cost to the county to supplement any such services itself or through a third-party service provider at any time from time to time. So if there was a need to supplement it, we can't charge you, no cost to you, but if we want to give our own service, then we can. And then Scott had me add, and it was the right thing, we had you indemnifying us for providing municipal services. He said, well, if you ever provide municipal services, I want you to indemnify the county. So we now have mutual indemnification language. So anything Mida's doing, we have to indemnify you if something gets sued and vice versa. But the default rule now is you're going to do it all and we're going to pay you.
And there is a provision in E that if the county determines that we can or won't or we don't want to do it, then it goes back to Mida to find out.
That indemnity language is in 5I, I think.
That's right.
But on that 5D and E, it's still provided in the subsequent paragraphs that we can have a right to cure both ways. So if the county said, hey, we're not able to do it, you guys can, within that time period, 30 or 60 days, can come to us and say, hey, we can help you out with it, or vice versa.
We asked you if you choose that you don't want to provide any of these services anymore, you're going to give us 180 days. But the reason is, if you did it in the middle of the snow season, we can't get snow plows or contract. You can't do it in November. We need 6 months to figure out, okay, now what are we going to do? I don't imagine that happening because I think it'll be very cost effective.
Everything's going to go great.
It's going to be positive. But you have that right to tell us you don't want to do it anymore.
Or to come back before then and say, hey, we need to adjust this to see if we can work it out.
That's right. Also has that language in there that you can say, you know what, we need an adjustment here.
So as far as the details of the agreement, that's what I had as first questions. I do have just a general question.